it's time for us to check in with our good friend Dan Wooding. He heads up Assist News, and you can go to assistnews.net, one of the great websites out there, and he will keep you updated throughout the day with emails from all over the world, and his passion is to make sure that the persecuted church is being prayed for, and today he has some stories along that line. Hi, buddy, good to see you.
And you, how wonderful. I always enjoy listening to the weather there. It never changes here, so it's exciting for me to know what goes on there in Medford.
Well, think about it this way. We won't need any meteorologists in heaven. Well, Dan, good to see you. Hey, listen, you got an interesting story coming in from Cuba. Now, what makes this so interesting is a couple of things. You've been banned from Cuba. I want to know why. In the meantime, our good friend Bob Gass has taken the word for you today into Cuba, and we're now distributing over 50,000. So it's kind of a mixed thing going on there. What's happening?
Well, let me tell you the story, first of all, about this church leader and then why I got banned. His name is Onatil Martinez, and he has actually planted 300 churches in the island of Cuba, and he's trained at least 1,000 Christian leaders there. And what happened was that he was raised in a Christian home, wanted to go to university, but unfortunately, in those days, this was a few years ago, during the really hard days of communism, basically, if you were a believer, you didn't get a good education. So he decided, more importantly, he would start trying to plant churches. He planted one, and that church grew so quickly, it grew to 26 other churches. And then he linked up with a ministry called the United World Mission, and they started what they call the Sowers Network in Cuba, and they began training people. The first place they went to, they had a seminar in a church building. The pastor got so terrified that he kicked them out of the church, so they met outside in the campground, and they've continued to grow since then. And now something like 300 churches in Cuba have been founded. You know, on my first trip to Cuba, I was able to interview a couple of pastors, Perry, who'd been in prison there. And I said to them, "Why were you arrested?" And they said, "Well, we'll give you an illustration. You put a rat into a room, you shut the door, you open the door again, and you pop a cat in there, and you shut the door, and then a few minutes later you open the door, and the cat is smiling and the rat is dead. Who killed the rat?" The question is, or the answer is, the CIA, because in those days they believed the CIA was behind everything, including Christianity. And I would regularly go over there, Perry. I've been 3 times now. And on one occasion, shortly afterwards, I'd written a particularly controversial story about Cuba and the persecution of the believers. And a friend of mine got arrested by the secret police, and he was actually given my business card. And the police said to him, "Do you know this man?" And he didn't make any comment. He said, "Well, if you see this man, Dan Wooding, tell him if he ever tries to come back to Cuba, he will be arrested immediately and imprisoned." So, Mr. Castro, Raul Castro, or even Fidel, if you're watching, I look upon that as a badge of honor.
Thank you, Dan. Well, good report. Well, listen, one of the great preachers of our time is Pastor Michael Youssef, and I understand that quite a thing over there in Cairo. What's that all about?
Yeah, Michael Youssef, who many people, watch his Leading the Way programs or listen to them. He was initially born in Egypt and went to Australia for a while now, lives in Atlanta. But his big dream was to go back to Cairo and preach the gospel in his home church. It's a church called Qasir el-Dubara, and it's on the edge of Tahrir Square, where all the protests were. Well, recently, he went back there. Now, the government tried to stop him preaching. They said that they were worried that there would be a lot of trouble, a lot of protesters. You know, it's a mainly Islamic country, Egypt. But he was determined to go ahead. He had a 3-day outreach in Egypt, and amazing things happened. 5,000 people altogether came to the meetings despite the government forces being outside, and around 500 Egyptians gave their life to the Lord. So that must have been a wonderful experience for Michael Youssef to go back to his own home church and see a mini revival, as it were, by Egyptian standards taking place.
Wow, what a fabulous story. Wow. Well, I want to say to our viewers and listeners, if you're not receiving the newsletters, or at least I should say the emails that come from Assist News on a daily basis, it's pretty simple. You just go to assistnews.net and sign up. And I don't know where you get all your reports, Dan, but thank you for the hard work that you and your team do. You get reports from all over the world about stories that you just shared with us. And so they just need to go there to sign up to get them?
Yeah, they just go. It's a free subscription. And, there was a man once called Francis Bacon. He was many, many years ago in England. And he said, knowledge is power. And what I'm saying is, if you get the knowledge from these stories, you have then the power of prayer to pray about them. And so we would like to offer you a free subscription. These stories I bring each week are just a tiny insight into the many stories we do. So go onto the site, assistnews.net, and you can sign up for free, and the stories will start coming into your inbox.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Dan. Good to see you, friend. Talk to you soon again.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. There he is, Dan Wooding. Again, assistnews.net. And let me recommend pastors and others, if you want to kind of get a quick overview, almost anywhere from 6 to maybe 12 emails a day of what's happening to the persecuted church around the world, just go to Assist News and sign up for those emails.